This is live. What are we doing here? Hey everybody, Ketwolski here, checking in with another one of our hashtag Lower Decks episode video review discussions. Today, of course, we are going to be talking about episode number 8, Veritas. So episode 8 has come and gone, and I have to say that this might actually be, in my personal opinion, the very first real episode of Lower Decks that we have seen so far in this season. And I'm going to tell you what I mean by that as I kind of discuss it. So my review video today is going to be a little bit different. Normally I kind of go through the things that I really like, and I have that really great slideshow that I know every one of you just loves to sit there and watch me drone on about. Another thing that I really loved about this episode, but I loved that. I thought that was great. I thought that was really funny. I thought it was great. Another thing that I really did enjoy, I like the look of all the creatures. But we're going to do something a little bit different today. I want to talk about just my feelings overall of what this episode actually, in my opinion, represents for the entire show moving forward into the future, and I'm very, very excited about it. So really quickly, just to get it out of the way, obviously the things that I super enjoyed about this episode was the way that the plot was kind of done up. I like the fact that we got to spend time with all of our great characters. We got to meet some really interesting ones. We had a ton of different Easter eggs and references, and of course we had wonderful appearance by Q, and not only just a simple sequence, which I originally thought it was going to be, but he actually appears twice, both of which times are hilarious. They're dunking on Picard in one of them. I absolutely loved it. Really great job there. Can't believe they brought him back, and I'm so glad that they did, and I hope he continues to come back, and they just drum up some more money to bring back John Delancey for other things for Q. So honestly, everything about this episode I really, really enjoyed. Definitely my top episode so far, but there is a specific reason for that, which is what I want to talk about today. Okay, so this episode, in my humble opinion, is the first real episode of Lower Decks. I feel like the very first 7 episodes has been introducing us to the characters, introducing us to the kind of comedy that we're going to be seeing, introducing us into the world that the Cerritos lives in, and kind of just showcasing different elements of the story capabilities that is, able to be done in an animated format. Now, keep in mind that in Star Trek's kind of perspective, the only animated format we've had previously was the animated series, which was essentially just trying to copy and paste the tone and style of the original series that it was based off of and kind of appeared directly after. Now, of course, it did kind of get a little bit zanier with things like Big Spock and all that other kind of weird stuff.
I've just picked up my clean uniforms from the service chute, and when I put this one on, I discovered this.
But they were still trying to keep it kind of relatively structured the same way that the original series was. Now, Lower Decks is doing something wildly different, and they've been slowly introducing these different elements, the way that the jokes play out, the way that these characters interact with each other, what's going on with these worlds, who these characters are, what their motivations are, what demotivates them, what are their likes and dislikes, what are their interests and disinterests. We've been learning a lot about these characters and the way that the storytelling capabilities of this writing team is for the first 7 episodes. And with this particular episode, it honestly feels like the very first kind of completed episode that I feel like if they had just jumped into at the beginning, it would not have necessarily worked for a brand new audience. So kind of what do I mean by that? So if you look at this episode just kind of, from a 10,000 foot perspective, it seems kind of straightforward. The Lower Decks crew's kind of just hanging around telling some wacky zany stories, and there's a bit of a twist ending, and we just kind of move on with some jokes. Now that does on the surface seem to be similar to the previous episodes, but you got to dig a little bit deeper in order to kind of uncover a little bit more about what's going on. In this episode in particular, we had all 4 of our main Lower Decks crew members participating inside of the story full on the episode in different varying ways. We had a great introduction of what we thought was a villain, but still had a great twist towards the end. We had a ton of interesting jokes. We had a lot of Easter eggs that did not overpower the story, but blended into it very, very nicely. We had Romulans, we had the bridge crew doing things, and we really ultimately had a very interesting narrative that wove into all sorts of different kind of viewpoints. It very much read like an episode of Arrested Development mixed with episode 200 of Stargate SG-1, where they kind of talk about a bunch of zany ideas about what the team could be doing, including one of them was a Star Trek parody. But it kind of felt like a mix of that and an Arrested Development episode where everything is kind of retold through different POVs, even though it's all kind of intersecting events. So all of those things combined and the style of this episode, I think when you put them all together, it creates the very first real episode of Lower Decks, which I think is going to attempt to continue to blend all of these things together in every single episode. And again, I feel like if they had done this off the bat, it would have been too overwhelming. We wouldn't have known who these characters were. The Easter eggs would have felt too numerous. The jokes would have felt all over the place, and we wouldn't have really understood what was going on. But because they've kind of built up to this by introducing us to the different styles of jokes, introducing us to how they're going to be doing Easter eggs and references, and introducing us to these characters and their writing styles, I feel like this episode kind of culminated in all of those things leading up to it to create, honestly, probably the perfect episode of Star Trek Lower Decks to this point. I really, really enjoyed it. And honestly, even though the entire plot was sort of like revealed throughout the entire episode and we understood a little bit of it, at the end of it, we still really don't know much about what was going on, which is kind of the point of Lower Decks, that they know some things and they don't know other things. And even when they tried to ask the captain about it, she just shut the whole thing down. Captain Freeman had shut the whole thing down, and they called her Captain Clarity as like a joke because they still don't really know what was going on. They still don't even know what the heck was happening. And I felt like that really just kind of encapsulates not only everything they've built up to, but still the ideology and the ethos of the Lower Decks, which is there's a lot of things going on and you still don't necessarily know what's happening. The way that the plot itself was kind of structured, I really enjoyed. So typically what we've seen so far is Boimler and Mariner go off on an adventure, and then Tendi and Rutherford kind of go off on adventures. And that's kind of it. Other times it's just kind of either Mariner or Boimler, or, all two, the two pairs kind of going off. That's really about it. But in this one, they've combined all four characters, and even the bridge crew had stuff to do, which was really fantastic. All of them had different little supporting roles. All of them did, which I thought was really great. But in this particular one, they were able to get all of our Lower Decks teams together in a really interesting way, because as they were talking about the mission or the day or whatever it was, Rutherford and Tendi had a lot to say during the flashback sequences because they were actually the ones who were doing things for the mission, while Mariner and Boimler actually took most of the talking stuff inside of the pseudo courtroom / party room, which was rather interesting, and I thought a great way to kind of structure it so that all four characters aren't kind of like overlapping each other too much, but it also gives all of them an opportunity to shine in their own individual rights. But I did like how each flashback kind of built onto itself. You had the situation with Mariner and Boimler on the bridge where they retrieved the map from those weird bug people, and then you had a situation with Rutherford. We had to go steal the ship, and then the ship that they stole from that Vulcan museum was the one that Tendi was on with the Black Ops team that had to go to Romulus to save the alien guy that was played by Kurtwood Smith. And I liked how it was all built onto that, kind of on top of each other, told in different perspective and different intersecting points of view. I thought that was a really genius idea, really great writing, I thought, and a really fun way to tell kind of a simple story, but just kind of keep it fresh, keep it exciting, keep it new, if that makes sense. And I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was really well done. Definitely the best episode of the season by far. And I really feel like this is the first one that we're really starting to see what this show is really, truly capable of, and what I think Mike McMahon and his writers and company are actually trying to accomplish with this show, which makes me very excited to see episodes 9 and 10 and the entirety of season 2. So I know I just threw a whole lot of information at all of you guys all at once, but I just wanted to go ahead and get my thoughts and feelings about this episode off my chest. It's something I've been thinking about quite heavily over the last couple of days since I've seen it. I did my live stream with Trek Central the other day on Sunday. We are live, maybe we're not.
I think we are live.
Oh, are we?
Yes,
I hope so. Where I got to talk even more about it. If you haven't seen that yet, I'll link that down below for you guys to go check it out, where I talked a lot more about this stuff in more depth. But I really do feel like this is a fantastic episode and is really kind of just telling as to what is to come moving forward. And really just everything for me worked perfectly. The jokes were hilarious. Probably my two favorite jokes of the entire episode were the first one being where the Romulans are kind of walking through the hallway and the guy's like, you know who I hate? Remans. Oh yeah, they're the worst. Like, that is so funny. Loved it. So good. The second line that I really enjoyed was, Tasha, watch out, there's that trash bag behind you, which was a fantastic reference to the tar monster that killed Tasha Yar inside of The Next Generation, played by Denise Crosby. And I thought that was really funny. Those are my two favorite lines, but obviously there are so many things, just so many hilarious moments. Q's moments where he brings him into that weird chess room thing where, there's like a sentient soccer ball bouncing around and they don't know what to do. I thought that was hilarious. Like, so many great jokes, so many Easter eggs, so many references, so many great things. We got to see a beautiful close-up of not one, not two, not three, but 4 Daredek's warbirds from, the Romulans. Beautiful looking design, great sketching there, great animations on all of those. And I just really enjoyed all of that stuff with the cleaner. I enjoyed all the stuff with Rutherford, with the fan dance. All that shit was great. The Gordon wedding, perfect. Great references, great jokes, really just super well done episode. Like, I really can't gush enough about this. I feel like because of the structure of Lower Decks and the way that the show is built with the soft resets, I would almost encourage people who are on the fence about watching this show to just jump right into episode 8. I really don't think you even necessarily need the build-up per se, as long as you've been kind of aware a little bit about what the premise is, that it's kind of a jokey show, and it's got the crew that's lower decks, and the Cerritos does unimportant things, and there's some kind of wacky and zany things going on. As long as you understand some of that premise, I would just sit and watch this episode, and I would put it in front of people who were on the fence about this show. I'd watch this episode, and I think people would really begin to understand and appreciate what the show is trying to do, and I really thought it was just perfect. I loved it so much. All right, guys and gals, that does wrap up my kind of long-winded gush about episode 8 for Star Trek Lower Decks. I thought it was fantastic. I cannot wait for 9 and 10, and then, we have the long wait for the second season, but we'll have Star Trek Discovery Season 3 in the meantime, so that'll kind of tide us all over, hopefully, during that downtime there. But I am, of course, curious to hear what all of you think about this episode. Do you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? Did you think it was lame? Did you think it was funny? Did you think it was the most real episode you've ever seen like I do? I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Get your comments up down below. And while you're down there, if you did enjoy this video, please throw a like and a subscribe up on the channel. It helps us out quite a bit and allows you to stay up to date with all of the latest Star Trek news and episode / hopefully movie reviews that are upcoming for the Star Trek universe. So get that stuff up down below, and we'll go ahead and get the conversation started. Live long and prosper, my Trekkies!